2.5 miles below the surface of the North Atlantic, the water is freezing and the darkness is absolute. In Belfast, back in 1908, a workforce of 3,000 laborers began assembling a machine that would eventually lie in that darkness. For 26 grueling months, these men hammered and riveted a mountain of steel into shape. When she finally hit the water, the Titanic dwarfed everything around her. She was a massive, imposing fortress of iron. This vessel was a physical declaration that humanity had finally mastered the unpredictable forces of the ocean. Inside, 9 stacked decks offered a level of luxury meant to make the world's wealthiest passengers forget they were at sea at all. Below the ornate lounges lay the engineering that gave everyone such confidence. This blueprint outlines a system of 16 watertight compartments. The ship's designers calculated that even if the first 4 of these compartments flooded completely, the vessel would remain level and safely afloat. Commanding the ship was Captain Edward John Smith. He brought 40 years of unblemished maritime experience to the bridge. But the company's owners were pushing for a record-breaking crossing to New York, eager to secure their prestige on the Atlantic route. The extreme opulence above deck, absolute faith in the engineering below, and intense pressure from the top created a dangerous blind spot for the crew. On April 14th, the ocean was dead calm. Without waves breaking against icebergs in the dark, spotting them early was nearly impossible. Throughout the day, other ships had broadcast 6 distinct ice warnings for this exact route. The Titanic's radio operator, overwhelmed with sending trivial telegrams for wealthy passengers, ignored the most critical alerts. While the ship sped directly into an ice field, passengers inside were enjoying an 11-course feast and dancing to live music. Then, out of the pitch blackness, a 100-foot wall of ice materialized directly in the ship's path. The crew threw the engines into reverse and tried to turn, resulting in what felt to many like a gentle, shuddering scrape along the starboard side. That faint vibration was the sound of steel plates buckling under the waterline, immediately sealing the fate of the ship. Ship definer Thomas Andrews went below deck to inspect the damage. He found water pouring into the first 5 compartments. The 4-compartment rule was broken, making it a mathematical certainty that the ship would pull itself underwater. This chart illustrates the brutal reality Andrews faced. There were over 2,200 people on board, but the lifeboats could legally and physically hold only 1,178. Initially, passengers simply refused to board the tiny, exposed wooden rowboats, choosing instead to stay on the massive, brightly lit decks. As panic began to surge through the labyrinth of the lower-class decks, profound moments of humanity emerged above. Couples like Isidore and Ida Strauss chose to die together on the ship, and the band kept playing to calm the crowd. The terror on the Titanic lay in the agonizingly slow realization that the mathematics of the situation left half the people with nowhere to go. At 2:18 in the morning, the immense gravitational stress became too much, and the metal spine of the ship violently snapped in half. Thousands were plunged into water that was nearly 2 degrees below freezing. Soon, the desperate screaming faded into total silence. Hours later, as dawn broke, the RMS Carpathia arrived to pull the survivors from the water. The 710 people who made it onto the lifeboats sat huddled in the freezing open ocean, staring back at an empty horizon. While the morning sun provided physical salvation for a fraction of the passengers, it cemented a profound, inescapable grief for the rest of the world. Back on land, anxious crowds surrounded newspaper stands, waiting to read the devastating casualty lists. Official Senate inquiries were immediately convened in tense rooms to figure out how the impossible happened. Investigators identified 3 lethal human errors: a severe lack of lifeboats, reckless speed through known ice fields, and the negligence of a nearby ship whose radio operator had simply gone to sleep. 73 years later, Dr. Robert Ballard finally located the wreckage, bringing the rusted bow of the Titanic back into the light. Today, that decaying iron hull resting at the bottom of the Atlantic serves as an eternal monument to the fatal limits of human arrogance when faced with the quiet power of the ocean.